Do you miss the adrenaline rush that a roller coaster gives? The vomit-inducing scenes from movies that curdled your blood? A horror movie is the answer to it. Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the top 10 most terrifying horror movies on Netflix. Grab your popcorn, turn off the lights, tuck your leg back under the blanket, and let's begin. Number 10. Cam. What if a digital doppelganger stole your identity and agency? Madeline Brewer steals the show in this gritty psychological thriller set in the lurid world of online webcam pornography. Cam follows Alice Lola Ackerman, a successful cam girl obsessed with being number one. To climb the ranking system, she resorts to increasingly bold and extreme means, culminating with a false suicide broadcast that pushes her into the top 50. Soon after, a mystery doppelganger steals her identity, prompting a hunt for the culprit. Screenwriter Isa Mazay, a former camgirl herself, based the plot on her own experiences with exploitation in the industry. Initially envisioned as a documentary, Mazay believed that the only way to depict the industry's dark side was to make a horror film. Cam is a truly great horror for modern audiences. Number 9. Apostle. Director Gareth Evans dials back the hand-to-hand combat in his follow-up to his two action epics, The Raid and The Raid 2. But he keeps a few buckets of blood ready in this horrific supernatural horror thriller. Even though the Netflix original is many years old, it still feels as if the movie was never given the attention it deserved. This horrific horror film stars Dan Stevens and Michael Sheen as it's set in early 20th century London. Apostle is about a man who returns home to find his sister has been kidnapped by a cult and must pay a hefty ransom to free her. On this journey to the picturesque island, he discovers that, despite the cult's claims to have left mainland society's corruption behind, it's still very much alive and well within its ranks. He uncovers one particularly evil secret as he learns more about the cult. This film has apparent ties to the classic folk horror film The Wicker Man, and it has a creepy vibe. It's a cult film that gradually gains your devotion, then all at once. Number 8. Gerald's Game. Like another of his low-budget Netflix-released horror movies, Hush, Mike Flanagan's Stephen King adaptation of Gerald's Game rings big creeps from a remote location. The movie is about Jesse and Gerald, who go to an isolated lake house to spice their sex life. But it turns into a horrifying nightmare when Gerald dies of a heart attack in the middle of their titular game. With Jessie still handcuffed to the bed, this turns into a long ordeal for the poor woman who must face her inner demons and a hungry stray dog eager for a bite of her husband's corpse. The horror comes in the form of her hallucinations as well as her immobility. If you're looking for outright shocks or gore, you won't find much here, but the unsettling cinematography and some truly unnerving moments drench the whole film with a feeling of dread. Number 7. Fear Street Trilogy. Do you enjoy slasher films? Does the picture of a terrifying knife-wielding lunatic sound like some fun on a Friday night? Then you'll enjoy the Fear Street Trilogy. Here's where we're going to cheat a little. We're packing 3 horror movies into this one video since the Fear Street Trilogy is, well, a trilogy of horror flicks. Part 1 of the movie introduces us to Dina, a teenager from Shadyside whose lover, Samantha Fraser, has moved to Sunnyside. However, the two become entangled in a centuries-old curse that has afflicted Shadyside. The first film is set in the 1990s, with sequels set in the 1970s and 1660s, revealing more and more about the Shadyside curse. This is a must-see trilogy and one of the best horror films available on Netflix. It also has one of the all-time great on-screen killings. There are almost zero chances of you finishing the first entry and stopping there, such as this gripping neon-colored slasher. Number 6. Creep. If you're a fan of POV, found footage horror films, Creep is one of the best in this style. Creep, a POV found footage horror film, is one of the best in the genre. Creep follows Aaron, a filmmaker who answers to a strange man named Joseph's internet ad to film him for the day. This was the final request from a man who claims to be dying of cancer and wants to produce a film for his unborn kid. Aaron notices something strange about Joseph as soon as he arrives. We see the absurdity and danger that awaits Aaron as the camera continues to roll. In many ways, Creep is realistic. This film focuses on only 2 humans, with no mystical or otherworldly elements. This killer is a manipulative man that shows he's normal enough to be trusted until he wants to show them how messed up he truly is. In a sort of found footage way, the way it's shot only makes everything seem more natural and fits this story incredibly well. Creep's realistic elements make us find everything believable at the moment. But thankfully, it's bizarre enough that we don't fear a Joseph in every person we converse with afterwards. If you love it, Netflix also has the sequel, Creep 2. Number 5. Unfriended. This film will transform your laptop into a horror film with a clever ambiance that builds tension. Unfriended takes place on a teenager's computer screen as she and her pals are pursued by an unknown entity seeking revenge for a humiliating video that led a vicious bully to commit suicide. Although there are plenty of cheap jump scares and gore in the movie, don't expect it to be all about them. The film has a surprising amount of restraint in it. The filmmakers have used their technological landscape to their advantage, using shaky connections, buffering, and even the dreaded pinwheel of death to create tension. The second half of the film is focused to a tense, deadly game of Never Have I Ever, which forces the characters to confront their previous sins. This is a must-watch, guys. Number 4. It Follows. It Follows is probably one of the most original horror films of the last decade. If you're looking for a film to make you feel even more paranoid and fearful of strangers around you than a pandemic has already made you, this film is for you. The villain of this retro thriller doesn't need a creep. Is it possible that it is a demon? Is he the embodiment of terror? A walking STI? Can appear out of nowhere and cannot be stopped. Its murderous entity that once transmitted to you won't stop following you until you're dead. The movie is filled with creeping dread, effective jump scares, and a score guaranteed to raise your blood pressure. All its victims can do is run or damn someone new by transmitting the possession through intercourse. It follows a relentless chase set against a picturesque suburban dream world that builds scares from pure suspense, a welcome alternative to the screeching, skittish horror movies that frequent theaters. Number 3. Veronica. It's hard not to like a horror film that does everything it can to remind you why messing about with a Ouija board is probably not a good idea. In Paco Plaza's film Veronica, a little girl holds a seance with her friends in the middle of a solar eclipse. Her mission is to make contact with her long-dead father, but as it is often the case in paranormal films, this does not happen. Veronica, on the other hand, awakens some very evil spirits. Suddenly, all kinds of strange things start to happen. The fright element is increased with unsettling sound effects, unexpected flying objects, and a truly creepy chain-smoking blind nun. And well, you probably know how this is going to end. Or maybe not. And if that's the case, you're in the same situation as the other Netflix users who couldn't finish the film because it was that terrifying. Number 2. The Ritual. Hiking doesn't ever really end well in movies, and that pattern unhappily continues for the 4 friends in The Ritual. It's about a group of 4 friends who travel to Sweden to hike across the countryside in honor of a fallen comrade. One of their friends was killed in a brutal liquor store robbery 6 months ago, while one of them stood by and did nothing. So off they go, carrying more emotional baggage than the physical rucksacks on their backs. At first glance, The Ritual looks like a film that borrows heavily from other classic forest horror movies. But as it trudges along, over hillocks and across streams, it transforms into its own thing. Right to its final moments, The Ritual keeps reinventing itself, surprising, scaring, and most impressively haunting. As we know, long treks into dark, creepy forests don't really make for fun times unless you quite like encountering centuries-old evil that wants to murder you. This movie is a lesson in why you should probably go to a campsite instead of the darkness of the woods. Number 1. His House. His House is a movie by filmmaker Remy Weeks. It expertly blends kitchen sink realism with horror tropes for an affecting and supremely terrifying haunted house movie. His House tells the story of Rial and Bo, a couple from South Sudan, who we first meet as they're fleeing from their hostile homeland with their daughter. On the risky journey across the sea, tragedy strikes and they lose their daughter. As they reach the UK, they're given a rundown house to stay in. However, this is far from the end of their problems. The couple soon finds themselves fighting the cruel bureaucracy of the asylum-seeking process, prejudice from their unwelcoming neighbors, and perhaps most terrifyingly, a witch that has followed them from their home. This movie is a harrowing, terrifying piece of work, elevated even further by its impressive commentary and about how much people bring with them when they leave. What is more frightening, the film asks, ghosts that go boo, or the demons that haunt us, no matter how hard we try to exorcise them? It's a powerful haunt that will linger with you long after the credits roll. Okay, so that's all for today's video. Are there any movies you'd think we've missed out on? Make sure to comment down below. We'll see y'all in the next one. We would highly appreciate your valuable views in the comment sections, so don't forget to notify us. Also, before we conclude, how about we tell you some amazing subscription options? It's the time when you drop a like on this one and subscribe to the channel to get daily updates. Wait, we just made your life a little easier. Now you can become a supporter, a member, or an exclusive member. If you become a supporter for $2.99, your comments will be a priority. All members will get early access to videos and exclusive videos, comments will be answered with priority, and shoutouts on videos, and that's only for $9.99. And lastly, you can become an exclusive member, which means a direct social media contact and every other benefit that a supporter and a member will get, for only $24.99. So, what are you waiting for? Make sure to grab this opportunity. Thank you for watching us.